21 Pilots have risen to fame due to their interpretive and undefinable style of music. They've never really been defined by a genre or a style. They can release one album and then have the next one sound completely different. They've never made a song because it's what streaming wants or what the companies want, but rather what they want. A certain aspect of their music that is kind of overlooked by fans who aren't as chronically online as me is their music videos, but more specifically, the lore that's built inside them. Across 2015 to 2025, songs in the 21 Pilots discography had music videos released that started to unfold into a bigger picture. And over the years, this lore has been unfolded into a whole universe of storytelling told through music, videos, live streams, letters, tours, and even more. The lore has never been spoon-fed to us fans, just segments of a story delivered to us, leading us to put together pieces and unfold this grand story. With their newest album released, Breach, the story is officially over. So join me as I share the most complete, detailed, and finalized telling of the 21 Pilots lore. From 2015's Blurryface to 2025's Breach, here is the story of Clancy, of Blurryface, of Dema, of 21 Pilots.
I am trapped, stuck in a cycle I've never been able to break. I am a citizen. I am an escapee. I am an exception. I am Clancy.
Clancy is a citizen of Dema, a city on the continent of Trench. It is surrounded by a large circular wall and has 9 large towers in the middle. It is also split into 9 districts, with each district being ruled by its own bishop. The outside of the city is a necropolis, full of neon gravestones. Dema is, to say the least, a depressing and cold place that citizens are never allowed to leave. A place where the coordinates were rotated to hide the truth. To escape, you need to realize that east is up. East is freedom, east is light, east is paradise, east is up. Clancy has been trapped there for over 9 years now. As mentioned, the bishops run Dema. There are 9 of them. Blurryface is both Nico and all of the bishops at the same time. It's a similar concept as God being the Father and the Trinity in Christianity. Clancy theorizes that they may be immortal beings using psychokinesis to swap from body to body. Their names are as follows: Nico, Keons, Andre, Lisden, Rustro, Scarva, Nils, Vetomo, and Listo. The 2 main bishops the story focuses on are Nico and Keons. Nico, or Nicholas Bourbaki, or as he's sometimes known, Blurryface, is the leader of the 9 bishops, and the scariest. Keons, on the other hand, is Clancy's bishop, and is described as more caring and kind compared to the rest. During his time in Dema, Clancy heard rumors of the old world and the outside, and is inspired to discover what lies beyond the walls of Dema. On February 3rd, 2017, Clancy, tired of the life he lives, tries to escape the city in what was known as his first, of soon to be many, failed perimeter escapes. Clancy was driven away from Dema in a car that was constantly trying to hit the torchbearer, leader of the famous group of rebels, the Banditos. A hooded figure is in the driver's seat, but then it vanishes before the car explodes at the end. Clancy and the torchbearer have successfully created a fiery diversion, although this escape didn't go unnoticed. In an investigative summary, the municipality of Dema mentions that judging from the evidence found at the scene, an unknown bishop-class operator was manipulated by Clancy to take him outside of the city walls, and that Clancy was observed fleeing the area on foot and entering the ungoverned territory of Trench. Clancy, just a few months after he made his fiery diversion, is now exhausted and confused. He doesn't know much about this place, other than the fact that a mysterious group of rebels dressed in yellow are watching him from the edge of the cliffs, the Banditos. The Banditos are a group of rebels who aim to overthrow or escape Dema. They wear yellow tape as the bishops are unable to see this color, and they are led by the torchbearer. The Banditos bear this symbol. It is seen as rebellious as it is an upside-down neon gravestone. The 2 extra lines around the symbol are symbolic of a jumpsuit, something covering us and giving us support. The Banditos also have 2 phrases that are prominent in this story, the first being "East is up," a code phrase used amongst Banditos to help identify each other. This phrase is used because the only way out of Dema is on the east side of the wall. the second phrase being Salo Felina, which is what the Banditos cry out when they are in need of help. But then Nico appears, his horse halted in front of Clancy. Our protagonist is now terrified, realizing that his plan was futile and he must return to the city. Nico approaches him and smears him. Smearing is what happens when an individual is captured by a bishop. It causes black marks on the person's neck and hands. That's when the Banditos start throwing yellow flower petals to distract the horse. Nico is confused as he can't see the color yellow. It was another diversion, and Clancy now had one more chance to escape. He started running away from the bishop, but he tripped and fell. The bishop caught him and he was brought back to Dema. The only thing Clancy gathered from this experience outside was a yellow flower he picked up from the ground. Clancy disassociates this entire event and views it as an out-of-body experience, and doesn't recognize until much later that it actually happened to him. Either way, now Clancy is well aware that he can't traverse this hostile continent on his own. He's going to need help. After Nico catches him, Clancy is back in his dark cell in Dema. He takes the yellow flower he picked up from Trench and puts it in his drawer, which is filled with flowers from his previous escape attempts. He then packs his things and gets ready to join the annual assembly of the glorified. During the ceremony, we can see the bishops carefully creating a neon gravestone and worshipping it. It's their way of glorifying an early death, and showing the citizens of Dema that taking this path is their only real purpose on Earth. This is the primary religion of Dema, Vialism. Vialism is a religion celebrated in Dema, with the end goal of the religion being taking one's own life. The people who commit this act are known as the Glorious Gone, and they're worshipped. They get buried in the surroundings of Dema under neon gravestones. Meanwhile, the Banditos are making their way towards Dema. Holding their lit torches, they enter the city through underground tunnels and search for Clancy. When Clancy runs into the Banditos, he's scared at first, but then the leader of the group pulls down his bandana and reveals himself to be the Torchbearer, a familiar face for Clancy. They perform their handshake and start a concert, a complete diversion. Their performance shakes the foundations of the city, and the bishops immediately start looking for the culprit, but it's too late. The Banditos and Clancy have already fled via the underground tunnels, and are making their way towards the Bandito safe camp. After their diversion, Clancy joins the Banditos as they head together towards the Bandito camp. This is where these rebels live, or more so hide, at the top of the cliffs in the hostile continent of Trench. The Banditos are all covered in yellow, the color of rebellion, and the only color the 9 bishops can't see. The camp is filled with tents, campfires, torches, and is home to vultures. Clancy is now one of them. He puts on yellow tape and yellow clothing, and he gets his head shaved. Clancy and the Torchbearer put on a show, lifting the Banditos' moods, but the cycle is too strong, as a bishop appears. Clancy is recaptured and dragged back to Dema, while the Banditos around him are unable to help, terrified by the bishop's presence. Clancy is back in his cell, thinking about his dangerous escape attempt. He's not sure if he wants to head back into the unknown, even though the outside intrigues him. In his journal, he writes, "While the routines of this world are comforting and certainly easier than life out there, my mind keeps bouncing between the two places. Which one is home? Are the bishops protecting me? Are the torches upon the hilltops dangerous? Or is it the other way around?" After his multiple escape attempts, Clancy had become somewhat of a legend in Dema. The bishops couldn't ignore that, as he could become a beacon of hope for the other citizens, and inspire them to start a revolution. They had to take immediate action. The bishops proposed an idea to Clancy. They wanted to use him for the benefit of the city. Scaled and Icy, the album, was written by Clancy entirely under the watchful eyes of the bishops. To help distribute the album, the bishops set up a live stream experience. It was a colourful show, from the sets to the walls to Clancy's hair. They dressed him up and asked him to smile, a poor attempt at hiding the sleep deprivation in his eyes. It was so colourful, as if compensating for all the greyness in the city. This experience was hosted by 2 citizens, whose, over the course of the show, skin would rot and eyes turn yellow. But Clancy didn't perform alone. A group of talented musicians would be there to help Clancy put on this show, but also to watch his every move. The Torchbearer, a familiar figure for Clancy, was also there as the drummer, or so he thought. That version of the Torchbearer was not real. It was actually a projection created by the bishops to manipulate Clancy, and further discourage him from making any escape attempts in the future. The show was a great success for the Niners, so this wouldn't be the last time they exploited Clancy and his creativity. They decided to use Clancy again to perform at the annual assembly of the Glorified. It would be a performance at sea on a submarine. Clancy, alongside the fake torchbearer and the band, put on a show on the submarine, operated by a hooded figure who resembled a bishop. Everything was going great. People were dancing and having fun until all alarms went off. Suddenly, a creature with yellow eyes attacked the submarine and broke the glass window. Many lost their lives during that attack, but Clancy and the torchbearer had managed to survive. The creature that hit the submarine was Trash, a sea dragon believed to be long dead, who was being seized by Keons using a pair of antlers. Keons was always kind to Clancy, and now he saved his life. The rest of the Niners were not happy that Nico was betrayed, so they stabbed Keons to death. Clancy later journaled, retelling his experience of the destruction. "I was thrashed through the bitter cold waves, yet somehow survived. Did the icy cold preserve me? Why was I spared?" Clancy is washed up on the shore of a foreign island, the Island of Violence, or Voldsoi. He and the torchbearer seek refuge in a cave. Here, Clancy meets a group of familiar creatures known as Neds, which stands for Neurological Expansion Device. He sits with them around a fire until he sees a stray Ned heading outside. Clancy follows this Ned, who stops, takes off his antlers and hands them to Clancy, and then disappears. Clancy is confused, but the rest of the Neds show him how to use this new tool. He stands up and performs a specific set of moves. Suddenly, the now dead Keon's eyes turn yellow. Clancy's too. Clancy has successfully seized Keon's and can control his every move. The rest of the bishops silently watch on in fear as Clancy uses Keon's body to destroy the neon lights and set fire to the tower. Then, the connection is broken. Ned has given Clancy a new weapon to fight the bishops, a weapon to use their powers against them, the weapon of psychokinesis. It all began to make sense, though it filled Clancy with even more and more questions. The episodes he would have, the out-of-body account of the rider on the river, the decaying host of the television show, the robed figure that commanded the doomed ship, had they all been seized by the bishops using this exact same technique? Is this where their power comes from? Are they immortal or just feeding off the next body, giving their hosts a brief second life? Is Clancy even in his original life? And why is he available to this control? This small, eerie island has made Clancy a weapon that could change the momentum of this war. Now, they must return to Dema, where the rest of the Banditos are to receive them, filled with embers of inspiration, where they will destroy and rebuild. Welcome back to Trench. Clancy puts on his mask and enters a venue in Dema, along with the torchbearer. They put on a show for the citizens in hopes to gain their trust. Clancy starts showing them parts of his journal, the maps, the pictures, the letters, anything and everything he has. The citizens are taught everything about the continent of Trench, the truthful intentions of the bishops, and most importantly, the torchbearer's plan to defeat them. After sharing his knowledge with the potential rebels, Clancy passes out, collapsing to the floor. Worried, the citizens gather around him and take off his mask. But Clancy was never there. Using his newfound powers, he had seized a glorious Gorm, while he was still far away from Dema. He and the torchbearer had just reached Port Vile, having just crossed the Paladin Strait, the body of water that separates Voldsoi from the continent of Trench. Clancy and the torchbearer traversed through the rugged landscapes of Dema, with the help of some Banditos, headed towards the Bandito camp. The journey is long and exhausting. Torchbearer even has to help Clancy overcome obstacles multiple times along the way. When Clancy and the torchbearer arrive in front of a fire, Clancy sees something that forces him to halt in his place. The torchbearer, dressed in his yellow Bandito attire. Confused, Clancy looks to his right to find no one. His friend has vanished, and that's when the truth becomes clear to Clancy. He hasn't been with Torchbearer for quite some time, ever since his last failed perimeter escape. The live show drummer, the Voldsoi companion, and the person who helped him traverse through Trench, gone. That was never the real Torchbearer. He was merely a figment of Clancy's imagination, a coping mechanism of sorts, because he didn't want to make this long journey alone. Reluctantly, Clancy receives his mask from the real Torchbearer. They're finally together again, after all of this time. Still skeptical, and especially disappointed in the Torchbearer for not being with him all this time, Clancy makes his way back to the Bandito camp. He's now basically the leader of the Banditos, as they charge together towards the city of Dema. But the bishops knew the rebels were coming. They've seized the vultures outside of the city walls to monitor every move the Banditos make, and with this knowledge, they decide to get the upper hand. The 7 remaining bishops, minus Nico, join their forces to resurrect the glorious Gorn from the necropolis of Dema. These corpses emerge from the ground and break their neon gravestones to use as weapons, but luckily, the Banditos are there to put up a fight. While the Banditos are holding back the glorious Gorn, Clancy makes his way into the city. He uses the tunnels the Banditos had previously made, tunnels he once used to escape. He scales the wall of one of Dema's 9 towers and ends up in the same room as the bishops. With the newfound power Clancy was given on Voltsoy, the Ned Antlers, he incapacitates the 7 bishops, but 7 bishops dead plus Keon's dead still leaves 1 remaining, Nico, and suddenly he appears, bursting through the door to catch Clancy off guard. Nico grabs Clancy by the neck and smears him. So few, so proud, so emotional, he says mockingly, followed by, "Hello, Clancy," as the 2 rivals stand face to face once more, after all of this time. Clancy is smeared, and in the grasp of Blurryface. He is powerless. His weapon is useless against the feared leader of the bishops, so he has to decide whether to fight back with everything he has left, or accept his defeat, fall to a darker fate, or live up to the role as the hero Dema needs. We see into the mind of Clancy during this. While Clancy is faced with this dilemma inside of his head, he's confronted by an army of red-eyed figures, possible past versions of himself who have come back to haunt him, representation of his past failed attempts, and his now shattered faith in Torchbearer and his plan. It's just too overwhelming for Clancy. Then, a fake, dark version of the Torchbearer comes out of the shadows to give Clancy a dark jacket. It's time for him to make his decision. But he refuses the jacket. He refuses to give in. He opens his eyes and looks at Blurryface, determined to fight back. "Hello, Blurryface. Let's finish this." He needs to break the cycle. This needs to be the final fight. It has to be. As Clancy falls at the hands of his enemy, the Banditos, led by the ever-loyal Torchbearer, breach into the city of Dema in hopes to make their way towards Clancy. Though, Blurryface's grasp isn't as strong as Clancy, and he resists the smear, fighting back against his sworn enemy. Using his fists and his Ned Antlers, Clancy and Blurryface battle for one final time. Trading blows, throwing each other across the room, it's anyone's fight. During the battle, Clancy has visions of his past, his story thus far, as Blurryface chases him through his previous experiences, overpowering him in each one, and in the Tower of Dema. The car on fire, the Bandito safe camp, the Valley of Trench, as he's forced to relive all of these experiences. Before the Banditos can get to Clancy, Blurryface gets the upper hand, and stabs him, with the very weapon sworn to take Blurryface down. The Banditos reach the door, but it's too late. Clancy fades in and out of consciousness, and in his visions of the past, accepts his defeat. Torchbearer tries desperately to open the door to save his friend, but it's no use. Blurryface breaks the antlers, a futile attempt by Clancy to defeat him. But there's still hope. Clancy's not done yet. He rises, with all of the strength he has left, and holds up a symbol. The power was never in the antlers, it was in Clancy, all along. This symbol is the true key to defeating Blurryface. Just as the Torchbearer breaches the door, a massive shockwave comes from Clancy, knocking him off his feet, and finally, defeating Blurryface. The Banditos and the Torchbearer enter, and watch Clancy rip down a red curtain, and wear it as a cloak. Torchbearer looks on in horror. The plan didn't work. Clancy has fallen too far. Clancy broke the cycle, but at what cost? This new bishop, Clancy, offers the Banditos the fallen bishop's robes, which they accept, all but one. Torchbearer, heartbroken to see what his friend has become, declines the robe. Clancy rebuilt the Niners and is now the Nova Bishop. Torchbearer and the Banditos clean up after the battle against the glorious Gorn. "What now? I really like this Clancy," a Bandito says. "Yeah, me too. But that's not Clancy up there anymore. He's out there somewhere, and we will try again," says Torchbearer. "Again?" "Always. Torchbearer tried to break Clancy from his cycle once before, and he will try again. because he'll never give up on his friend, because the sun will rise and we will try again. The story of Clancy is set in a circular cemented city and the hostile continent that surrounds it. These places are metaphors for our inner battles. Dema's walls are the barriers we build, and Trench is the difficult process of dealing with our own demons. Dema is a grey prison, and the journey through Trench can often be dangerous and full of setbacks. But in order to break the cycle, to break free from our own struggles, we have to make that journey. We have to realize that freedom is out there. This journey is not easy to make. It's hard to even attempt to escape in the first place. But we should never give up. Clancy never gave up, and he was not alone. The torchbearer and the rest of the Banditos were there to help him escape whenever he faced setbacks. Our friends, our family, are our own Banditos. Those who can help you find a way out of these dark times. When we think all of the walls are blocked, and we get stronger with each attempt. But we can never control how strong the cycle is, because the truth is, you will fail most every day. But each time, you'll learn something new. Even if we find ourselves hopeless, back in our dark cell in Dema, we have to remind ourselves of our true purpose, our true intentions, and intentions are everything. Stay alive, push on through, reach the walls, and then try again. You might not feel it, but you're making your way towards freedom. No matter how many times you try to break the cycle, this process will eventually set you free.